All right.
Okay.
Most of the time I do. So
All right.
that should be fine.
Oh,
Okay.
please make sure you're muted as you come in.
Oh, I'm
All right, welcome everybody. We are so excited to have everybody here.
how many of us are in here?
We have quite a few in here. As you're joining, please take a moment to put yourselves on mute. And my name is Joy McDonnell. I'm going to help be our MC today. We have Emily with us, who is the author of our crochet pattern. Kesley Anderson is also with us, and she is my partner in crime with doing all the hats and getting everything going. And then we have Katie, who's going to help us on the backside with chats and with sending you some links and things. So you have a whole team helping you out. We're thrilled to have everybody here. And today we're going to be working on our patriotic hat, the crochet pattern. Like I said, my name is Joy McDonnell, and the way all of this got started, we decided to, sorry, I'm gonna just fix this real quick. So Kesley and I were on a trip, and Kamala Harris got nominated for the president for the elect president for the DNC, and we said we need to make some patriotic hats and we want to reclaim our flag, and that's where this hat was born. So we started it with doing a knitting pattern, and then Emily volunteered to help us with doing a crochet pattern, and today that's what she's going to help us with. So Emily, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
All right. So my name's Emily Quirk, and I'm a mom and photographer and jack of many trades, based in Virginia. And I met Kesley because I actually had an exchange student for a year, and my exchange student and her daughter were fast friends.
Offers a cash account.
So that's how we met. And I am kind of an avid crafter. I tend to pick up things and I have to kind of go full force into it. I've been a knitter since I was a teenager. I used to volunteer at a local historic site, and one of the things they had me do was demonstrate knitting in a colonial costume. So I've done that. And I was always reluctant to crochet because I'm left-handed. And I was intimidated by crochet patterns because I wasn't sure how to deal with them as a left-handed person. So I thought that was an important background for everyone to have, because don't be afraid if you are left-handed. You can either just pick it up right-handed like I did, or this whole pattern can be done backwards. So either way, it should be totally fine.
Yeah, great. And I'm Kesley. I'm Emily's friend. If you've joined us in our knitting videos, you've gotten a chance to meet Joy and myself. So we are just super excited to have Emily with us, and that she's created the crochet version of the pattern, and she's ready to teach you. So for this video, I'm going to step out of the way, and we're going to let Emily and Joy be the stars. So thank you everyone for joining us.
Yes, thank you. And Emily, I'm going to go ahead and spotlight your camera so that we have that here and everybody can see. I'll keep my eye on the chat. Anybody who has any questions, please feel free to type that into the chat. I'll keep my eye on that. So if Emily's going too fast, or we need to slow down or go back and see something again, we can help you out. So any questions, go ahead and put that in the chat. And Emily, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Well, I should have also added as background is I learned to crochet watching videos on YouTube during the COVID pandemic. So if I am saying things that aren't the proper terminology, or if my form's a little bit funny, please forgive me. But if you are a more avid crocheter than myself even, you can just pretty much adapt this to anything, any way you'd like to make it. we tried to make it a super simple pattern so that even beginners could do it. And the main challenge to converting the knitting pattern to this crochet pattern was this bottom. Anyone who works crochet knows that doing the ribbing is a little bit more complicated in crochet than it is in knitting, especially if you're trying to do a pattern that goes this way. So I think that was our main challenge when we tried to translate this pattern into crochet, was to try to figure out how to work the color work. So you might notice if you've looked at the pattern already, the back is kind of wonky, but that's okay. It's going to go on the inside, so no one's going to see the funny side on the other side. So we're going to kind of keep the funny business on the inside, and then the outside looks like a nice little, as neat as we could with crochet. And then what you do is you basically create the ribbing first, and then we're going to create this top, which is got the little V stitches in it to look kind of like a flag. So the important thing is just don't get intimidated. It's all single crochets or just variations on it. Changing the colors is going to be your most complicated part, and you can easily work your way through that. My two daughters also crochet, and they were kind of working through it with me. And my one daughter's only crocheted for about a month, and she could figure it out. So I trust that you guys can do this, and hopefully we'll help you along the way. So when you get started, I think this is another thing that it's super easy. You can use basically any supplies you have. You can choose any colors you want. I mean, it's red, white, and blue, but don't get hung up on what kind of blue. You could have like a more navy, you could have a more royal. That's okay. All right. You can pick any color blue that suits you. Honestly, this blue that I picked was the one that they had at Michael's when I went shopping. So don't get too hung up on the shades for your hat. And even the types of thread. Just go with one that says size 4 on it. The types that we used here, I used some Red Heart, Super Saver, some loops and threads, Soft Classic. We also used some Big Twist. They're all sort of interchangeable, and in my hat, I used 2 different brands of yarn because they happen to be what I had around. So definitely this can be a stash buster project for you. I would just try to keep it all to the same size within the same project. So, I used all the size 4s for this pattern. But the nice thing is this pattern kind of translates well. If you want to do all size 5s, you can do all size 5s. Or if you want to do all thinner yarns, you could do that as well.
So Emily, I'm going to go ahead and spotlight your workspace. Do you want to go ahead and get us started on the first step?
Yeah, I'm going to come over here. All right, this is Kesley's demonstration project. So I am going to take this red here. And I chose to start this with a red. You could easily, swap it in and out if you prefer to have your reds and whites opposite. But I thought it was easiest to just start out with a red. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to start with a beginning chain. And we are going to chain one more stitch than what we want for our rows. And so we're going to start by making this ribbing with 9 chains. So I'm going to do a little slip stitch and stick my hook in there. And then I'm going to chain 9. 1, 2.
Emily, do you want to tell us a little bit about how to chain? Because we have some beginners who are in here.
5, yeah. 7, sorry. Lose my train of thought easily here. Yeah. All right, so when you're chaining, you're going to basically take the loop on your hook. You're going to take this spare yarn that you have, and you're going to loop it around, and you're going to pull it through with your hook. So that is your basic chain. And again, you can start this project if you have different kinds of yarn. It's going to be longer or shorter. My yarn suggested that you use either a size 5 or 5.5 hook. I chose a 5 because simply it was what I had sitting around. So don't sweat it if you have a 5.5, or if you have a different one. Just adapt your measurements accordingly. But you can kind of roll with whatever you have sitting around. Don't go buying a hook that you don't already have if it doesn't work. So at this point, we should have 9 chains, and we're going to start our first row.
Can I fix your, the camera's just a little fuzzy. Let me just fix that for you just for a second. I'm gonna slide in
And-
here. So you guys get a nice sharp look on her hand there.
Thank you,
we go.
Kesley.
Yes.
Yeah, I was joking that my teenage daughters would get upset with me for not having manicure for these projects. I don't know if any of you have teenagers at home, but they're kind of getting on me for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm looking here at my chain, and I'm going to look for the second one from where I'm holding it, and I'm going to stick my hook in there. And when I was a beginner, this was really a challenge to me because they said stick your hook in the chain. I'm like, well, what does that even mean? So just basically dig out the top of that little chain and put it on your hook. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through that yarn over. Then you're going to yarn over again and pull through. So that is your single crochet. So you're basically making your very first single crochet.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, as you're doing it, when you're digging into that stitch, as you said, you're digging in, it's like you want to look for that V form, and you're gonna put your hook in the middle of the V.
Yeah.
That
I
helps.
don't know if there's a good way to kind of get it closer here.
Yeah, I can zoom you in again.
Okay, zoom it in.
Gonna bring it up.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you think of that chain as having the V, then you're going right underneath those 2 V's.
Yeah, so I'm at the next V, so I'm going to kind of dig in here and put it in. So it's really hard. It's kind of hard to see, but you really can't go wrong. You basically just want to start another stitch. So if you get it even on the wrong part, that it's really not a big deal. So you put it on, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and then we already have to add our next color. So if you're new to crochet, what you might want to do is just run through a few single crochets to get the hang of it before you start adding the colors, like I am right now. But if you already know how to single crochet, I would say go ahead and start adding the colors. So for those of you who are ready to start adding the colors, what you're going to do is you're going to take this white thread and kind of bring it in next to your red thread. And just loosely loop it over your hook with the red thread. And so for your second pull through for your single crochet, you're going to bring both the red and the white together through. And this is a little wonky on the very first one because you're kind of getting started and you're leaving this like lots of stuff here on the ends. But if you'll notice, I got a short end that I'm just going to abandon here. And then I have the longer end that's going to hang out with my red thread. This is our working yarn. If you're being technical in the crochet world, these are your working yarn. So now you'll notice I got 2 loops on my hook, but I only want to work with the white because that's what I'm going to be working moving forward. Because I basically made my little red stripe and now I'm going to make my white stripe. So what I was doing is I basically pulled my hook out, only grabbed this little white one, and just let this red one go. And I promise this is like the hardest part here. Once you get past this and figure it out, then this is good. So we're going to take our white and do a regular single crochet, which means we dig in, we bring our yarn over, pull through a loop, and yarn over and pull through another loop. So there you might see I have 2 red ones and I started a white one. So I'm going to want to do 2 red, 2 white, 2 red, 2 white. So I'm going to do 1 more white, dig in, yarn over, pull through. And then I'm going to switch to red. So I'm going to use the 2 yarn trick here. I'm going to take both yarns, yarn over, and pull through.
And when you use those 2 colors together, that lets you carry the second color along the crochet with you.
Yeah, if you were doing this in a project where you needed to look at the other side, you would do doing this a little bit differently. But because this is a hat and you're going to wear it and you don't need to see what the inside looks like, I'm carrying it through it in a somewhat lazy way that makes the front look a little bit nicer. So, and I mean, there are other ways to do color changes. You're welcome to do it a different way if you know how to do it, but this is just kind of how I found was working best to keep the stripes in order. So we have the 2 yarns there, and then I'm going to take the white off because I only need the red going forward. And this takes a while for your brain to wrap around, but once you get the hang of it, I think, did you have the same experience?
Yeah, I did it a little bit differently.
Okay.
But I think that that's kind of the cool thing about crochet is like as you're doing, my back probably looks a lot more janky than yours does. So if anybody's lost with the color change, this was new. This was a new technique to me as well. Emily did the pattern and I grabbed it and I looked at it and I realized like if you just stick with the process. So after about 4 rows, you'll be able to look at it and go, oh, okay, I see what's happening now. But these first 2 or 3 rows, it really is like, what am I doing here? So, Emily, why don't you walk us through as you, like, you're at the end of your row now, and then just really go slowly as you, and just watch Emily do the color change. So she'll go through it slowly, watch her do it, and then she'll walk you through it a second time.
Yep.
And then if you're comfortable with it, then go ahead and give it a shot.
And don't let this deter you from doing the project. If you're having a hard time with it right now, go back and watch the video afterward and just rewind until you figure it out. Because honestly, once you get the hang of it, then this really flies by quickly. So I'm at the end of my row. I've just done my last single crochet. So as you see, I have 2 red, 2 red, 2 white, 2 red, 2 white. So I've started to make my pattern. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 1, which means yarn over, pull through, and that's my turning chain. So that only thing that's doing is allowing me to kind of turn it around. And then I'm turning it around. And so right now you see that's my pretty side. This is my not so pretty side. It's pretty obvious because you can see where I've pulled the yarn through. And so that's going to be our wrong side. If you look at the pattern, there's a wrong side, which is WS, and then there's a right side, which is RS. So this is my right side. So right now I have the white yarn on my hook. I'm at this end, and I'm going to work back the other way. So I flipped it around. I'm going to work backwards. And for this row, I'm going to work back loop only. So what that means is when you're looking at the top of your work, you see that there's these little V's all the way along. And we're going to work into the little part of the V that's like on the far side. So that's considered your back loop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig my yarn in. Interestingly, working the back loop is just like working into those original chain stitches where you work into the same spot. So you're going to work into this back loop. So dig it in. You're going to yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. So that's your first stitch of the next row. Same thing.
Emily, that's a single crochet, right?
Yeah, I'm doing this in single crochets to make it simple. If you're an advanced crocheter, you could do this with half double crochets, and that would be totally fine as well. It would have just a slightly different effect on the ribbing. It would be a different kind of ribbing, but it would also look nice. So But this is all just single crochets. So for my second stitch, I'm going to dig in, yarn over, pull through. And then I'm at the point where I want to change to my red. Okay, because you're always going to pull in that second color before you finish the second stitch. That's the trick, so that you get nice color changes. So here on my wrong side, I have this red just still hanging out from the last time I used it, and I have the white that I have been using. So I'm going to bring the red up with the white. It's a little bit crazy here because there's all these little ends, but so both my working yarns I'm going to bring together, and I'm going to yarn over with both of them and pull through. So there, on the end of my second stitch, I have both colors on my hook.
And Emily, when you go to drop this red, you literally just pull it off the hook.
Yeah. So well, this time I'm going to drop the white, right? Because
the white, I'm sorry. When you're going to drop the color.
So what I sometimes do is I just pull the one over that I don't want and leave it on the thing. And so now it looks a little terrifying that you have this little dangly here, but you can simply pull it through.
And it won't unravel or anything. You can just pull that right there. Okay, perfect.
The trick is when you're working on this wrong side, you just want to make sure that all of your yarn hangs out on the wrong side. So in this case, I want to just pull that white toward me so that it's not on the right side, because we want all of the excess yarn to be on the wrong side. So that was the only little trick, is I want to make sure after I pulled that white through that it's like hanging out here on the wrong side. And then I've switched to my red, and so I'm going to do now my 2 single crochets in red. So I'm going to find the red back loop to dig into. I'm going to put my hook in, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. And again, dig into this next red, yarn over, pull through. And now I'm in the second stitch, so I'm going to bring both of my working yarns up. So I found my white down here. I have my red back here. I'm going to take both of them, yarn over, and pull through. So now we're in the scenario again where we have both of the colors on, but the next one I'm working is white. So that means that's the one I want to hang out on the hook, and the red one can go. So you can either just like pull one over and let it go, or you can just take the hook out and stick it back in with the one that you want.
That's
again,
probably easier.
Yeah. And
now,
like I said, I've seen other ways to do this, and I just thought it was less confusing to me to just pull both through and then pull one back out.
Yeah. Can you slow down just a little bit? We have a question on how you're going through the back loop.
Yeah.
That's a good view. The white shows up really well there.
Yeah. So do you have like a pointer of some sort?
Oh yeah. We're gonna use a
Yeah, I can use another thing. So here. So these are your loops, because this is closest to me. This is my front loop. This is my back loop. It's the back loop because it's further away from me when I'm holding it straight up like this. So you're going to want to dig your hook in and only grab that back loop. Because if you're doing a regular single crochet, you would take both of the loops, right? But we're not doing that. We're doing a back loop single crochet. And the reason why you do that is because that's what creates the ribbing. It creates kind of like the, the rib, like the peaks and valleys, I guess, of the crochet. So for this next one, we've got our white. We're going to dig into this back loop. Can we see that?
Yeah, that's good.
That's
really good.
If you did a regular single crochet, you would have 2 pieces, like 2 yarns there. But since we're only doing back loop, it's just one right there. We're going to yarn over, pull it through another loop, yarn over, and pull through another loop. And like I said, I learned how to crochet with YouTube videos. So if you ever encounter something you're having a hard time with, you can usually Google it and say, single crochet back loop only, and someone will show you in painstakingly good detail how to do that stitch, and then you can kind of go back to that. So that's my recommendation as someone who learned like through the web, that there's always someone who can teach you any stitch that you get hung up on. So again, I'm going to put it in the back loop, yarn over, pull through, and then I'm to the second one. So I'm going to find my red yarn that I've been hanging through the back here, grab it with my white, yarn over with both, and pull through. So you can kind of see where we are. We have 2 whites, 2 reds, 2 whites. So now I need to do my last 2 reds on this row. So I have 2 on my hook, and I'm going to drop the white because my next stitch is red. So I can just pull that white out and yank that yarn out, and I'm going to keep it again to this wrong side. And I'm going to stick the red in the back loop, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. One last one. And you notice for these end stitches, you can just let that white hang out like in the middle. It doesn't have to go long all the way to the end. Whatever stitch is not needed doesn't need to come on to the end, because you can just pull it up for the next row. So I did 1 single crochet here, and then it gets a little tricky on this last one because you did that the turning chain. So you just have to make sure that you are finding that last stitch. So make sure you find your last stitch. You still do the back loop only, yarn over, pull through, and yarn over, pull through. So,
And if
we have-
anybody is confused in watching this for the very first time, just know that we do have a video. Vicky, I know you're, we do have the video, and it's okay. This is a good way to kind of get a preview of exactly what's happening. And afterwards, you can go to the video. Katie just put the link in the chat, and we go step by step, a little slower in how to do everything. So this is a good way to kind of get an overall landscape feel for what you're going to do. Sorry, Emily.
Yeah, and like I said, I can't stress enough. Don't get worried about it. Just go back, rewind, try it again, because once you get the hang of it, this just really flies by. And this is the kind of project that once I got started, I just sat in front of the TV, and it's very brainless because it's the exact same pattern, like until you're done with the rows. So
Can you, since you're starting a new row,
yeah,
could you show us, so someone's comment is, my threads are not near each other. So can you show us the back side, kind of where you have the one thread on the end?
Yeah.
That's your working red thread. And you have your white thread. See how it's like 2 stitches in? So that's what she means by they're not next to each other. And she says it seems like it's going to be messy on each side. So when you flip your stitches to start the new row, those threads are going to be on the opposite side. So let's see, I think now, will they be on the right side, or do you need to flip them in?
So I'm on the wrong side. I'm going to do 1 turning stitch and flip to the right side. So now I'm going to work on the right side. And this time you just have to be careful as you're carrying your yarn that you just pull it, like when I'm working on the right side, the yarn's going to be back here. When I'm working on
So
the other side, the yarn's going to be, you always put it on the ugly side when you're carrying it along.
Good, that's excellent. Okay, so it's
Yeah.
always going to be on the ugly side. So those, when you're working, when the right side is facing you, your threads are going to be on the back side.
Yes.
And that's how they normally are when you crochet.
Yes.
They're normally on that side. So this side, you don't have to worry about bringing them forwards and back.
Yeah. And when you're on the ugly side, you have to keep remembering to bring them toward you so that they carry along on the ugly side.
Right. So on the, let's just show like the finished, this is the wrong side. So you can see how your threads kind of just pull across, and you can see I've made some mistakes on mine, but your threads just kind of will pull across and look, not very, that's how they look. But then on the right side, you don't have those threads coming across because they're stitching over. So Emily, why don't you do that side, get us
Yeah.
to the end of that, and then flip it one more time and show us how to keep those yarns moving on the other side.
Yeah. So I did one turning chain and now I'm on the right side again. And I am going to still do back loop. So when you turn it, you might notice the back loops are kind of downhill, and that's okay. You're just gonna have to look at the top, find your little V's and find the back of them. So I'm going to find the back of the V, stick my hook in, yarn over, and pull through. Yarn
when-
over, pull through. So these end ones, the first two you do, you don't have to worry about any of these things because they're just kind of hanging out in the middle. So it's actually the easier end there. And then, so I've done one red. I'm going to do my second red. So yarn over, pull through. And on the second red, that's when I'm taking both these things. See, they're hanging out there on the back. And I'm pulling them through. It's much easier on this side, like you're saying.
Yeah. So this is where I think as a beginner, if you're watching this for the first, or if you're trying to do this, when I was working on these, I did it a little bit differently. Can I show how I did it?
Yeah.
Okay. Because
You might have a better one.
No, I don't. I just did it differently. It's just different. So when I would do it, so we're on white now. What I did, and I probably didn't do it, the professional way, but this is what made sense to me. So Emily did the two reds, and I've got my red here, and the white thread is on my hook. So I knew my first one was going to be a solid color. So I went into the middle of my V, poked it out away from me. You're always going to poke away. And then you pick up your white. That's your normal single crochet there. Okay, so that's normal. And then I'll come through with my white. So then what I did different than what Emily did was I would poke in the back, and instead of pulling up two, I just would pull up the red at that point
Yes.
and finish my crochet with the red.
Yeah, and
So
I think that's how I did it in the video as well. But
I still think that because it's confusing when you pull up that red, you're thinking you're going to get that red stitch there.
Yes.
That's what always threw me off. But then it's no, you do the first one with your red stitch, with your red thread. The first one is the same color. And then my second one, it was I considered it like a half color. So I'd go into the red with the red, but then this time I would pull up my white.
Yes.
So I'd ignore that red and pull my white up and finish that single crochet in white. So half red, half white, finish it off white.
Yeah.
That might help too.
Yeah. So that way also works. And that is the way I actually usually do my color changes. But what I found, it was creating more of a zigzag than a straight line in the stripes. So I did it slightly differently to try to get a little straighter of a line. So I think that method, I don't know though. I don't know if it actually does. I was finding that it made the line a little bit straighter to do it this double loop way.
Right.
But you could totally do it both ways. And like I said, if you have a way that you know how to color change and you're comfortable with, definitely go with that. There's no need to do it this particular way.
Emily, do you think you could show us with Kesley's finished one, how you what that band looks like and then how you bring that together? Because we're
Yes.
working on something vertical, but it becomes the horizontal band.
Yeah. So unlike when you're knitting, this would be much simpler because you would just knit up this part and then just keep going. But with crochet, basically you're working here. Basically you're working this way and then this way. So you kind of got to wrap your head around the fact that you're doing this band sideways and then you're adding the other part onto it later. So here, maybe I can pop over here.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me change your camera angle?
Oh, I was gonna change it for her.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
So you can kind of see you're creating the rim of the hat here. And
That's so 70s.
I love it.
and then what you can see from this was my quickly whipped up model here is you're gonna start adding that you're gonna start crocheting the blue around this way. So you initially crochet this way, this way, this way, and then you're gonna crochet this way. So that's why the crochet version is slightly different than a knit version because you kind of have to get the colors to work the right way. You kind of got to do it a little funny, but that gets us where we want to be. So we're going to move on to the blue right now, or
Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah,
Yeah,
if-
just stitch and then the
yeah.
blue.
So once you get to about this size, the great thing about the way this hat is designed is it's not all about numbers, it's all about size. So like you just keep holding up your ribbon here until it goes around your head, right? So hold it up, and when it gets to the size that you want it to be, then you can stop. So you don't have to go off my measurements or anyone's measurements. And if you're using a different size yarn, it doesn't matter. You don't have to really worry about your gauge or anything like that with this pattern. You just need to hold it up, or if you're making it for your child, your husband, whoever else, just hold it up to their head or get some idea of how big you want to have it. So when you get to the size that you want to have it, what you're going to do is you're going to combine these two ends together. And
I need a tapestry needle, I think, in there, don't I?
oh yeah.
Or do you need that?
No, so you can combine this almost any way that you feel comfortable with. If you're a sewer and you'd rather whip stitch this thing together, and that's what you're most comfortable with, you can sew that together. If you hate sewing and you're more of a crocheter, you can definitely you can just single crochet it together. You can slip stitch it together. Basically, it really doesn't matter how you combine these as long as you get these things to go together. So and if none of those words made any sense to you because you're brand new at all this, that is totally okay too. Please, like again, don't be intimidated. Anybody can figure this out. Just keep watching your videos, keep going back to it, be persistent. And if it's frustrating you, put it aside for a few hours and come back to it. Put it in the naughty corner that we crocheters call it, the naughty corner. I have a lot of projects in the naughty corner at any given point. So here we are with this project, and we are going to try to combine it. And I'm just going to show you a slip stitch join. So what we're going to do is take your working yarn. In this case, it's sitting on a white yarn, so we're going to use that one. Doesn't really matter if you use the white or the red. You'll probably see in my sample here, this is not very neat. Like I could have done better, but it's also okay. No one's going to stress out about the fact that your hat has some little wonky end on it. I could have put this together much more neatly. My daughters criticized me for that as well because they're teenagers. But you guys can do however you like. If this doesn't bother you, then make it unneat. But if it does bother you, I could have combined this in a much more organized way. But it can go in the back of your hat. Most people probably won't even notice. So what we're going to do is we're going to take your two ends and we're going to put them together. And we've got our hook here and some yarn on it. We're going to take the hook and go to the, I'm gonna turn it inside out, right? So I'm going to take the yarn and stick it into something on the other side. It doesn't really matter, just a part on the other side that's about at the right spot. And you're going to stick it in, you're going to yarn over, and you're going to pull through both of your loops, right? And then you're going to go, I'm going to come back over here.
Yeah,
maybe.
and switch
Okay.
over your camera.
You got it, Kaz?
Sure.
To my-
Replace that spotlight.
So
Go
go
ahead.
to
There
my-
you go.
go to
You're all
my
set.
close-up
Oops,
here.
I didn't do it. For the close up.
Yeah. All right. So now I've got my stuff all together here. So I'm going to go back to my close side. I'm going to stick my hook through a whole stitch here. Or you could do half a stitch. Like I said, it's pretty loosey-goosey. You can choose some way to combine it. So put it through something on this side and something on the other side. yarn over and pull through everything you got on your hook. And that's your slip stitch. So again, just don't be too worried about what you're sticking it in. Just want to grab some yarn on this side, grab some yarn on this side, and try to keep the red with the red and the white with the white, right? So yarn over and pull through everything on this hook. And then grab some on this side.
And Emily, this is the same way that you actually close up the hat too.
Yeah. Yes, you could do it this way. I did a single crochet at the top of mine. But again, you can do it the same way. You can sew it, you can slip stitch it. It really is like your choice. But because we were making a very single crochet pattern, I just single crocheted at the top.
Yeah, I gave Emily the challenge. I thought like for our new crochet people, maybe if they just had to learn one stitch, the single crochet, that might be a little bit easier. And if you're Emily and I were talking about like if you're more seasoned crochet, you can always adjust the pattern and do half double crochets on the ribbing if you wanted to.
And here, like if you really wanted to do a single crochet, you could, as long as it's ends up together as one little combined piece. So I just did a slip stitch all the way down. There's my working yarn loop, and that's the way it looks now, combined on the right side. So there we are. I flip it, and like I said, it's not perfect, or it doesn't have to be. Everyone's going to think your hat is super cute, and no one's going to be looking at the back of the rim, I promise you.
It's true.
If you're selling these, then maybe that's a different story. I hope you're a better crocheter if you're going to be selling these. So, but yeah, that's about combined. So now we have our piece. And in the hat, we like to have the red at the bottom. So I have that further away from me right now. I mean, it's your choice if you want to put the red on the bottom or the white on the bottom. Right now, it's kind of universal. You can do it either way. But we're going to start adding the blue. So I'm going to grab the blue. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a slip knot and stick my hook in. Yeah, I'm going to use
something. Oh, I took the wrong one. I'm sorry.
I'm a big fan, everyone, of the ergonomic hooks because I got carpal tunnel from doing too much crochet. So it doesn't have to be a tulip, but I am a big fan of the ergonomic hooks. I think they're a great investment. So we stick it on, and we are just going to start this blue part. So I decided to start my blue back where I connected it so that my seam is in the back of the hat. Again, you're kind of going in a circle, so it doesn't really matter. If you really prefer to have your seam on the sides, you can have your seam on the sides. I think in the middle of the back seems to make the most sense to me.
So if you did want to put it on the side, how would you position the ribbing so that the seam was on the side?
You could just,
you would just start it that way.
Yeah. And then you just have to be careful that when you sew up the top, it's wherever you want it to be. Because you're basically going in a circle, so it doesn't matter where it is until you sew together the top.
True. Okay.
Yeah, so I stuck mine in the middle. You could
so you can make that decision. That's a game day decision.
If you prefer to have it on the side. Or if you have like a cute label that you put on yours that hides that, then you put it where the label goes,
Yeah.
Maybe that's the decision. But I chose to put it in the middle. Again, this pattern is all about your preferences because it's a freedom pattern. You do it the way you want to do it. You will not be offended if you do it your way. At least I won't. I can't speak for everyone.
I won't
but
be.
This is a gift to you, the pattern, and we like to see your creativity at use.
Yeah, and Yvette's saying she's using the double crochet on the ribbing, and it's working better for her.
It goes faster that way.
It does a bit, yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's slightly easier to change the colors that way too. So
maybe we'll have to do another video on that, Joy.
Yeah, you
Yes.
can do, I like the half doubles, you know, you can do the singles.
And
All
Emily,
right.
we're going to start the blue on the white piece, right?
On the
Yes,
white-
sorry.
on the white
Yes,
edge.
I'm like holding it wrong, I guess.
There you go.
There we go. Yes, holding it on the way. So, actually do the scissors so I can chop this
Oh,
off.
sure. Oh, right behind you. I'll get them.
It doesn't really matter that much. Actually, I can carry it up when I
Fresh
start. So technically you can carry your weight up if you want to, but I'm gonna take it off. Thank you. So for these loose ends, you can sew them in when you are done, or you can actually just leave them there because again, they are on the inside of the hat. So it's all about your preferences. That's the magic of this type of hat. So I'm gonna chop this a little bit closer too. Yes, if you don't like sewing in your ends, just hide them on the inside. All right, so I have a slip knot on my hook and I am going to start my blue. And so I'm going to go into the seam and I'm going to dig into something. Again, this is not important what you dig into, like, because there really isn't any even things here, right? Like it's weird ribbing. So you pick something to go into. I was like, oh, this kind of looks like a stitch. I'm going to dig my hook into it. I'm going to grab two little pieces here. Actually, I just grabbed one, but that's okay. So I'm going to yarn over, I'm going to pull through, and I'm going to yarn over and pull through. So that's another single crochet. So I just did a single crochet into something along the way.
Can you take that out and do that again one more time, really
Yeah.
slow? Actually, we're going to do it 2 more times. So Emma's going to do it first so everyone can watch her do it, and then she'll do it again and move on.
Okay. So again, dig into something. It doesn't really matter what. Yarn over, pull through. And then you're going to yarn over and pull through two. And that's just a regular single crochet. So that's how I just got started. I've got this little string hanging out here. That's fine. That's just going to hang there. Eventually that'll go in the inside and hide just like all these other strings. So that's our first one. And then you see this little hole here next to it. I'm going to dig into that hole. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. So now I have 2 single crochets. And then I'm going to find just something to dig into here because there's no logical stitch or anything. You just find something in this like lump of yarn. And you yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. So now I have 3 stitches. And then
So it's kind of like
basically
freestyle as you're adding the blue. I was looking for little holes in between the ribs, but you could really just go for it.
yeah, and the main thing is you don't want to add too much or too little. You just want to kind of have it hang and just do it so that as these stitches start to add up, it is about the same width as your ribbing. And the first time I did something like this, like that really kind of blew my mind. This is kind of how you do a lot of border stitches on blankets, the same idea. But you're just kind of digging in. So I found like 2 or 3 per rib was what worked for me. And that might vary if you're on different kind of yarn or whatnot, but it's just basically evenly spread out these single crochets along it. So like if you did 2 for one little clump and then 3 the next one, that might be like what you get, like what you need to get the size that you want. So I'm just digging in. And this is definitely like a very wonky row, and that's totally fine. But you really can't go wrong, you know, you just kind of just throw in single crochets across because you're just basically making your base row here. So
And about how many stitches do you want to get across? Was it 72? Or did it matter?
it doesn't matter.
Does it have to be a certain number to get like the 2 V-stitch, 1 V-stitch?
Probably. I honestly did not count mine.
Joy, did you count yours? Do you remember how many you had?
I did not count mine. What I did when I went to add the little white hearts or stars in, I just waited till I got to the very end where the row came together, and I either added a stitch or put 2 together so that I could keep the pattern going.
Okay, yeah, because
Does
I'm
that
gonna
make
go,
sense?
Emily's hands are gonna be busy adding that blue ring. So we can show, so she can show the V stitch. I'm just gonna grab her hat and show you guys when, as she was doing the, I noticed it, like yours looks so much better than mine, but her V stitches kind of came at an angle. So when you get to doing the V stitches, you'll do a V stitch on this row here, for example. Let me grab on this row
You should
here.
tapestry needle.
This is yours, right? Yeah. She did like, so you do a white and then you do two blue and then you pull up the white. Now that pattern stays the whole way around. It's just how you start it will give you the V stitch in the middle of the two stitches. So she'll go over that. But I thought that was like a really cool thing. And as I was looking at her hat, I loved how yours were done so neatly and they go like up at an angle. I don't think mine does that. Let me show you mine. I'm working on my second one, so I'm hoping my second one will be a little bit, although they don't look so bad. They do I messed up on my row here, but they do kind of do that angle thing. Joyce, do you want to switch? Does yours do that too? When you do that to your
Yes.
V-stitches? You want to show
So,
yours?
yeah. So I can put a spotlight real quick.
Okay.
Here we go. So yeah, so mine does go up at an angle too. And the way that works really is you're going, like Kesley was saying, you're going to do two of the blue and then one of the white. And then when you come around to the next row, you're just placing that next white right in the middle of the bottom two white. So if you just keep thinking you're placing it in the middle, it does go off at an angle as you go along. And I did put my seam on the side so
Yeah.
that where I had any issues, I'm trying to find it. Where I had any issues, I just kind of hit it on the side. So I think this is my side with the seam. And I just kind of hid anything that wasn't completely consistent along that side right there. And I thought that was kind of a nice spot. So if I'm wearing it, nobody would notice.
And Joy, do you have your knit hat handy? I know we have some knitters in our group.
Sure
But
do.
your knit hat, because I think it's interesting to see how whether you're doing the knit or the crochet, that string carries through.
Oh, right. So yeah, so let's look at the inside of our hats. So this is knitted color work. And as you're going along, you're just pulling that piece of white behind, and crochet ends up the same way, which is really, really cool. So once you kind of get used to these fiber arts, you'll see where there's so much consistency. But underneath, whenever you're not stitching with the white, it just pulls along and floats behind. And the one trick on that is you don't want to pull it too tight. Mine are loose, whether I knit or crochet, and that helps to keep the fabric from puckering when you're doing those. So you want to keep that white nice and even. Otherwise, if you pull it too tight, your little heart might or your V might disappear, or it might pull your fabric and kind of pucker it a little bit. So if you get that result, just let your hands loosen up, and it'll be easy peasy.
And so somebody else had asked Joy about using, sorry, I've just messed the camera angles up, but about using if you did a knit and a crochet version. So like if you did a knit band and the crochet top, you can see sort of with the knit style right next to the crochet, how those would kind of look with each other.
You absolutely could. I mean, that's the cool. Honestly, and Emily, you might feel the same way I do. I think I use crochet all the time in my knitting, because if I mess anything up and I have to go fix, it's like a crochet to find a stitch and pull it back up. And within crochet, there are times where I use some knitting techniques like the floats and things like that. So that's why I think there's just so much crossover between knitting and crochet that, yeah, if you're comfortable knitting and you want to do some parts knitting and then some parts crochet, go for it. Absolutely. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah, I think if you are a knitter, to be honest, I would do this ribbing and knitting. And then and then you could pick up the crochet if you wanted, because honestly, this would be so much easier in the knitted version.
Of the rib.
But that's okay. We did it the crochet way. And I noticed when you put them next to each other that your red and white rows are a little bit wider. And again, like you can adjust that with the crochet version. You know, instead of doing 2 of each red and whites, you could do 3 of each. That's totally fine too. That's kind of then you would just adjust and make your blue part a little bit shorter. So either way is fine. Again, we kind of wrote the pattern to be open to interpretation and to different yarn sizes and different, you know, it doesn't matter if you crochet a little bit looser, if you crochet a little bit tighter, since it's all about size and not stitch count, which I think is kind of fabulous because I'm so used to having to count everything. Like you asked me about it, it should be divisible by 3, your number around, but you know, it's not the end of the world if it doesn't. You just kind of adjust as you go around. All right, so on my sample here that I'm working, I got to the end of this first row. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip stitch into the very first stitch. So I'm going to find kind of the end where I first started, which has this little dangly blue thing. And I'm going to take my hook and dig into that very first stitch, yarn over, pull through that, and pull through that. So now I've slip stitched.
Can you do that one more time?
Yep.
So Emily's going to do the slip stitch again if you want to see how that works to join the rows.
So I've got my working yarn. I've got this last single crochet on this side. And you see my little dangly from the beginning. And right before the yarn goes into the white, there's this little loop there. That's what I'm going to put my hook into, this little loop here. I'm going to yarn over, pull through that, and then I'm going to pull through there. So that's just a regular slip stitch. And I'm to the end. And the way I designed this, I have turns because I thought that made the crochet look a little more like knitting, to be honest. That's why it's turned that way. It doesn't, you don't have to, but I think that it works a little bit better that way. So I do a chain 1 to turn and I flip my work. And now I'm looking at the ugly side, and that's okay. So the next row is going to be, you know, single crochets all the way around again, but just with the ugly side out. So for the difference between these single crochets that we're doing here and the single crochets we did in the ribbing is that you're going to do just a regular single crochet, which means you take the whole stitch when you put your hook through. So you have 2 little parts of the stitch. The whole V of the stitch is going in for here. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. So that's just a regular single crochet. And then you do that all the way around. Super straightforward. You just do single crochet, single crochet. And this is where we yarn down a little filter. This is where being left-handed is kind of difficult because those of you who are right-handed crocheters do this like lightning speed, and then I do it at like slow motion just because I'm doing everything backwards basically in my head. So I'm going to do this all the way around. I don't know if you want me to do this now. Should I just flip and show the
Why don't you go ahead
stitches?
and flip that and go ahead and keep working that around. Joy, while Emily's working on that, somebody had asked for how to show your knit hat again, if you don't mind showing that one again.
Sure.
And Katie, if you don't mind dropping in the links for the knit version, the video. Joy is actually, Joy, you want to go back and show your your front view, I want to show your sweater so everybody understands. Like Joy really
Oh.
is. We went to
Embarrassing.
Iceland and Joy made sweaters for all of us. So her knitting, see that sweater behind her? She made that sweater, and so she's like amazes me with her knit skills. And she has a whole YouTube channel where if you go to YouTube and do a search for Hats for Harris, you'll find her YouTube channel. And she's got all kinds of knitting. She's put most of her knitting on hiatus to help the rest of us learn how to knit and crochet everything for this exciting time we're in. Okay, so I just wanted to say that, Joy, and it's either you can either do a search in YouTube for Hats for Harris or Joy McDonnell, 1 N 2 L's.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make you a
Or-
shirt. I'm making you a shirt that says 1 N 2 L's.
I know, that's just, I need a shirt that says just that. But also you can look up Patriotic Hat. It's in Ravelry. It's in YouTube. So lots of places. And I think Katie's dropped it also in the chat as well. So lots of places to find us. Kesley, I just noticed we're at 8 o'clock.
Okay, well, we're
So-
sticking around. So if anybody
Are we going to
wants
stick around?
how to float those
Perfect.
beach dates. But you know, I can see Emily, she's getting close to the
Actually,
end.
I'm just gonna flip it here.
Well, I've got one more little
Okay,
thing to show.
okay, go ahead.
So I'm going to share my screen here to give everybody. I have some slides I've got, and now this is all being recorded. So this will show up for everybody in the recording. I created, let me see if I can share my screen here without being a complete dork. Let me find it.
I was gonna say,
I've got my screen here. So this is the Hats for Harris Crochet Night, August 29th. And I'm so proud of myself. I made QR codes for a couple things. So this will be in the recording. So if you watch the recording, you can just grab your phone and it works. Hold it up to the QR code there and it'll take you right to the link to sign up for the September 11th Zoom. And on that Zoom, we are combining the knitters with the crochet group. So we will be helping if you're stuck with your knit project or your crochet project, we'll merge those together in that group. So definitely join us for that fun evening. And then Joy created today or yesterday a Facebook group for us. So guys, if you're new to fiber arts, crochet artists and knit artists are so friendly with their knowledge. If you're stuck with anything, join the Facebook group, ask the questions. You will get answers like lickety split. And Joy, like I'm in menopause, so you know that what actually I really am not in menopause, but I'm of the age to be in that. 329 is my sweet spot. So if you're crocheting and you have a question at 329, I might be able to answer it. And then Joy has her YouTube channel that has not only these projects but lots of other knitting, more so knitting than crochet right now. But I bet you she's going to start doing more crochet in there. So you can
we're going to get some crochet.
Yeah, you can hop on to Learn with Joy and learn more. And then you guys, we're so excited. The Hats for Harris is going to grow as we're all knitting and crocheting our hats. And we're going to launch Hats for All on September 11th so that anybody who wants to donate a hat to somebody who is planning on attending the November 2nd Women's March, we want a sea of red, white, and blue hats on the National Mall. So that's the goal. And then also when Kamala has her inauguration, for her to look out and see a sea of red, white, and blue hats as well on when is that? January 21st, I think, in Washington, D.C.
Right. But when we're also in line to vote, we can wear our hats to keep ourselves warm.
Yes. I love it. All right. So that's all I have to say. Are you ready, Emily? Should I toss it back over to you?
Yes.
Okay, let's spotlight you.
What
I love your hat.
Done. is, so I finished my row that was on the wrong side. I did a turning chain and I flipped it back. So now I'm on the right side again. I started with 2 single crochets. And then I did one of these little V stitches and I did 2 more single crochets. And now I'm going to show you how I did this little V stitch because I'm ready for another one. Because basically the pattern is 2 regular blue stitches and then one of these colorwork stitches. And I called them V stitches. There's probably an actual technical name for it. And I apologize if there is, but I made little V's, so I called it V stitch. So basically you're going to start like a regular single crochet. You're going to take your hook, you're going to dig it into the stitch below. And you are going to take your white string, which I had already added, but you're gonna, on the very first time you do it, you're gonna add that white back. You're gonna take your working yarn with your white, and you're going to loop it over. It's just a little wonky right now because I've got all this other things here. You're gonna loop over your white and pull it through. So right now I have a blue and a white, and then I'm gonna take my blue again, yarn over, and pull through both of them. And that magically makes a little V. And then I'm going to do regular single crochet 2 times, 1, 2, with my blue. And then I'm going to do another one of these colorwork stitches. So it's 2 and then 1, 2 and then 1. So we were talking about the yarn coming along the back here, and you can see it's starting to do that already. I'm on my 3rd stitch, so I'm just kind of loosely pulling this along. You don't want it to be too loose so that it's like hanging out like that. You don't want it hanging out. You just want it to loosely pull along with everything, but enough that if you tug your yarn that it's not going to pull too hard. So I'm going to take that white, I'm going to, on my 3rd stitch, I'm going to dig in to my stitch. I'm going to take that white, yarn over, pull through, so that I have a blue and a white on my hook. Then I'm going to take this blue working yarn over, and pull through. And sometimes it's going to look a little loose like that. That's okay. You just tug on the weight a little bit. Nothing too tight. And then by the time you do your next single crochet, it'll kind of lock it in. So you do another single crochet and another single crochet. And then you can start to see those little white guys coming along. And this one, I think I pulled a little too hard. That's why it's not coming in right. But you can kind of see this one's sitting nice. And then when you start to do your next row, they'll start to look better. They're going to look a little bit funny until you get around. So you're going to do these 2 single crochets and then your colorwork stitches all the way around. Then when you get to the end, you're going to do a turning chain. And you're going to turn it to the wrong way and go back around. I'm just going to show you.
And Emily, we did
Mhm.
have a question because we have a stitch marker on the list of things for people to have. And that turning chain is where you can use that stitch marker if you'd like. It's
Yeah.
completely up to you.
If you find that that's one of those things, like I'm having a really hard time finding it, then yeah, definitely do that. And sometimes blue yarn is a little hard to see, depending on how dark you go with your navy. It can be a little hard to see where everything is. So remember, when you're going back on your wrong side, you're not doing these little white stitches. You're just doing blue all the way around. So you kind of get relief every other row where you don't have to do worry about where the whites are. So just kind of dig in every stitch, going around. And I find when I get to the stitch that has the white in it, it's a little harder to dig into that one, but that's okay. Just gonna dig in, single crochet. And so then it starts to look like that. And
Awesome.
so when you get to your next row, then you're just, like you said, you're gonna make sure that your little white V's are alternating. So what I did in the pattern was, instead of starting with 2 of the regular single crochets, you start with 1. And then so it'll just make everything a little bit offset. And you can start to see when you're doing it if it looks offset or if it doesn't. Then just adjust as needed. Awesome. That's the gist of it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Emily. We can't thank you enough for being here, for jumping in and helping out with this pattern. Yeah, we should put on our hats. For jumping in and helping us out with this pattern. You were just like a miracle worker. And we were so thrilled to have your excitement. And so just wanted to say a huge thank you. And Kesley, do you want to do your one picture of everybody and their
Katie.
progress?
Katie, are you ready? I'm getting over here with Emily.
Is Katie gonna do
I
it?
am ready.
All right, hold on.
Yeah.
Let me get.
I'm closing out all my side stuff so I don't get all the chat.
So this is our like getting ready for inauguration and the march for the Women's March on November 2nd. Cannot wait.
Oh wow, I like how far you guys have gotten. You guys are way faster than I am.
Wow, look at everybody.
We
I
got
love
some
it.
good.
All right, I
Katie,
took
that was fun.
smile. All right, hold on one second. My computer's a little slow.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us. This video has been recorded. It'll be up on YouTube. And actually, some people actually watched us on YouTube. So hey, YouTubers.
Yay.
So that's great. And then we'll share links and we've got some really fun things planned. We'll have some new kind of like information on our September 11th Zoom meeting. So join us there. If you're not able to join us, we've got Zoom meetings planned all the way up until October 29th. So guys, we've got plenty of time. You'll have over 2 months to work on your pattern and work on your project. And I know you guys are going to get this. So I love it. And if I do, Katie does have the links. If any of you guys are Cricut people, you can check out my design space, Kesley Anderson. And I have all the shirts I've been wearing, my Kamala shirt, my Do Something shirt, my Vote shirt. They're all up in my design space. So you can make them for yourselves.
Love it, Kaz. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Katie. Thanks for all your help. And we hope you have a good night. And we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Joy, can you end the meeting?
I got it. I'm trying to
I
move the
gotta run
mouse.
around.
One more time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.